As we approach Palm Sunday, maybe you knew it was Palm Sunday, maybe you forgot it was Palm Sunday. A lot of things can come to mind. We know we begin Holy Week. This is the Mass where we all get the palms that we carry and place in our house as we honor Jesus' triumphal entry to Jerusalem. Maybe the first thing you thought of as you opened the Missalette and said, oh, this is when we got to stand through that whole Passion narrative, right? The good news, the little consolation, is that this is one of those times when the Missal says, after the Passion narrative, that a brief homily should be given. So we're gonna oblige that instruction from the Missal. And I think that it's wise because as I'm sitting here just reflecting and hearing the Passion narrative, this is everything. Like the entirety of our faith is contained in these things. There's like every movement, every scene could have a whole homily about it. And so it's almost like sensory overload. As I hear the entire Passion narrative, I notice things like personally, I'm struck by these particular verses. And it's like I want to stop and stay there, but then we're going on and we're going on and we're going on. So I want to maybe, as a point of reflection today, offer how we can best pray with this Passion narrative that we heard today. Because really, this that we heard was not just Palm Sunday. We got that even at the very beginning of Mass. And today we heard the entirety of what happened, the entirety of what we're going to experience this entire week of Holy Week. We heard it all today. It's almost like the church gives us like a concentrate, and the desire is that as we get the concentrate, that we continue to remain there, we continue to sit with that, and let it continue to grow in our hearts. Second reading, St. Paul said something very important. He said that though he was in the form of God, Jesus, who didn't deem equality with God something to be grasped at, emptied himself. He took the form of a slave. He took the form of a human person. God, Jesus Christ, became a man, a very real man. And as we hear the Passion narrative, I believe it's all a story that most of us, I hope we've all heard this before. I hope this isn't the first time we've heard of Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection. And the temptation as we hear this story that we've heard before is to say, oh, I've heard that one before, and then to kind of like, let me check out a little bit. We just kind of stand there for a little while. I've heard this. I know I'm not going to hear anything new, and so I move out of the story, of being intentionally present in the story, and I forget that what I'm listening to is not just somebody else's story. What I'm listening to is my story. I am not just a passive bystander of this thing that Jesus is doing, but I am an active participant in what is happening. I am present there. Jesus didn't just do all these things, but he did all these things for you and for you and for me. I'm present there. And I think the church tries to get us to realize that as we have an active role in the actual reading of the Passion narrative. I'm a participant in this, and I have a role in that. And the invitation is that Jesus, who became man and who actually experienced all these things, like sit with that, pray with that. Jesus is not just an idea. Jesus is not just this thing, this character in a story, but he's a real person. And as I hear what he's doing for me, I'm there. He's thinking of me as he's going through all those things. So as we hear the story, a way to pray with it is to pray with it in his humanity, to use our own humanity, our own senses, to be present there. I'm with Jesus in the garden. I'm walking with him as he's carrying the cross. What do I see? What do I notice? What do I hear? Do I feel, as I feel the breeze, like what's going on in my heart as I'm with him as he's going through all of these things, and he's looking and thinking about me as he experiences all those things? Because that helps Jesus not to just become this far-off idea, but a real person. I can't have a relationship with a person. I mean, I can't have a relationship with an idea. I can have a relationship with a person. And moving Jesus from an idea to a person, as he becomes more real, as I experience what he's going through with him, that helps me to notice things about him, to notice things about the people who are with him, to be really present there instead of just hearing about it. It helps me to move from knowing about the things that happened to Jesus to knowing Jesus. There's the largest difference between knowing about Jesus and knowing Jesus, and seeing what's going on in his heart and to be with him as he experiences all of these things. So as we sit through Holy Week this week that's Holy Week, it's literally set apart, it's sacred for this purpose. We heard the story of Holy Week. This is it. We're not going to hear anything new Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. This is the story. So stay with the story. If we come to the liturgies later this week, we're going to hear the same thing. So the invitation this week is to stay with this story. Be with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. Maybe I want to kick the apostles awake because they're asleep. Maybe I'm one of the sleeping apostles. Maybe I want to help Jesus carry his cross. As I use my imagination, Jesus becomes a very real person who doesn't just do these things, but he's doing these things for me and with me. And that's how I move to knowing Jesus. That's how I don't become just a bystander watching the things play out, but I'm an active participant in the story. I have a part in it. And Jesus has me in his mind as he's doing all of these things for me. And I see not just the story of somebody that I'm tempted to move out of, but I see my story. I see a very deeply personal story. Let the concentrate that we just got not be thrown out. I invite you to stay with this story this week. The parts that struck you, go back there in your heart and in your prayer this week. Let this week look different than the previous weeks of Lent and the weeks that are going to go after. Holy Week ought to be set apart in a particular way. Prayer is not about all these great things that I'm doing. Prayer is just about being with Jesus and giving him my heart. As I'm with Jesus and I see his heart for me, we pray for the grace today that I can open my heart to give him that, to be with him as he experiences these things, so that as we prepare in a week for the great celebration of Easter, that I can do that, having gone through all the events between now and then with Jesus. That transforms our celebration of Easter. As I'm with him in his passion, death, I can experience the resurrection with that much more joy. As we celebrate the rest of this Mass today, may we give the Lord our hearts to walk with him as he journeys to the great celebration of Easter.